All right, I thought I was going to mess this up, but I'm not going to. Good Tuesday afternoon to you, Christian. What are you
See,
looking at?
it's easy to. I mean, if there was any day to mess it up, it would be today. Like, and I wouldn't really
Yeah.
blame you that much.
After a
So
long weekend,
very
restful for you?
yeah, pretty restful.
I don't know if you're calling your weekend pretty or you're saying pretty restful. Okay, so a restful weekend.
It was a pretty weekend, and it was a pretty restful weekend. Yes.
Very good. So I loved it because as I was waking up on Sunday before the Sunday scaries could set in, I was like, no. Today's like technically Saturday.
True.
I was like, whew.
Wait a minute. I got a second one of these.
Yeah, got to enjoy Sunday.
Let's go.
Instead of getting hit early with these Sunday scaries. But that being said, we have something important from the weekend that we have to talk about, and this has been talked about a lot, and it's kind of just flaming over social media right now. People can't stop talking about it, and I think for good cause. Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah. Have you seen it?
I wouldn't be bringing it up if I hadn't. Now, TJ, you know me. When it comes to reviewing movies, I'm pretty critical, yeah?
Can be, yes. No, yes. Yeah, especially movies like this where
I'll say, let me rephrase this.
Yeah.
I'll say, because you can be critical one way or the other. You can be like a critic review and you can be like, oh, that's amazing. Or you can take it the other way and be like, oh, everything's trash, right? I'm not trying to say I'm that guy. It's just very hard for me to say, like, words mean things, right? So it's very hard for me to say something is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, like, how often do you hear me say of a show, like, oh my God? Or is it like, it's fine?
Very, very rarely. Even really good shows, you'll say that. And I'll say, like, movies. Like, I knew first couple times I came to you with what I thought was an amazing movie, and it just got dissected, just chopped apart. And I was like I remember the first time I really like my buddy, my best friend showed it to me. I really like the movie Legend with Tom Hardy in it, and where he's playing both the brothers. And we talked about that a lot. And I was like, man, have you seen Legend? And you were like, yeah, it's all right. Like, it's all right. What do you mean? He was like, Tom Hardy's like, it's like he's playing two characters because he's really the only impressive person in that movie. And I was just like, yeah, but it was so good. He was like, not really. I was like, come on, man.
The performance can be amazing and the movie can be terrible. It actually happens a lot. But that being said, all the qualifiers out of the way, I was going into Top Gun Maverick with a really positive vibe.
Yeah.
Right? Because it wasn't from the typical places where I heard, like, yo, this is amazing. Like, you gotta go see it. This movie, it blow you out of the water. Awesome. It's just awesome. Right? It was from the weird places where I'm seeing, like, on social media, like, liberal minded reporters who are like, Top Gun's amazing, along with all of the more conservative reporters saying, gotta go see Top Gun Maverick. I was like, okay, something's happening here.
Yeah.
And then I'm seeing like critic reviews coming out about it, and it's not like Rolling Stone says this is amazing. It's like the LA Times says Top Gun Maverick is must see.
Yeah.
And so I was like,
okay,
either they dropped a boatload of money to get some positive reviews out there, or this thing slaps. And I think what's important to note here is we have to go back a few years because this movie, I think, started getting made in like 2017, 2018. And then due to COVID, you had just shutdown after shutdown after shutdown. And this is the movie in which Tom Cruise kind of had his, I don't want to say like a breakdown. I think it was just like straw that broke the camel's back in terms of him like lashing out, because the set had to keep getting shut down because of different COVID violations.
Right.
And so his whole thing was like, we're trying to finish this bleeping movie and you guys can't wear a mask.
Mm-hmm.
And his whole point to that was, we're trying to save cinemas, right? We're trying to save movie theaters. And I think movie theaters was one of those things a lot of people thought was going to die from the pandemic. And we've spoken about this a couple of weeks ago when I was like, hey, there's actually a lot of movies I want to go see. It finally feels like we're getting back into the rhythm of once every month or so, there's going to be a movie that comes out that makes you want to go to the movie theater to see it. We're finally getting back to that. Like, I'm going to want to go see Thor, right? So there's a lot
Yeah.
of movies that are coming out like that, but this one, I think, in and of itself, I mean, it's a blockbuster. It's a movie you have to go see from the time it opens through the end of the movie. It's just 2 hours of awesome.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot for me to say that about a movie.
It does.
It's better than the original.
Wow.
I'll put it out there. Maybe not like the same characters. 'Cause
Yeah.
You got like Iceman and Goose in the original ones, and you still get the call signs in this one, but Val Kilmer makes a return appearance in this one
Good to hear.
as
Yeah.
Iceman, right? So it beginning to end, like it's a movie that I know a lot of people are like, I can just watch it at home. It's not the same. Like unless you have like the full surround sound Bose that like your dad used to have before, where like the whole house would vibrate
Yeah.
when you're watching Saving Private Ryan, right? It's not the same experience. Watching Tom Cruise, I'm not gonna say what kind of planes because I don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah. No.
But watching Tom Cruise just get after it inside some of these planes with the audio around me, I'll say it's the best movie theater experience I've ever had.
What?
Like watching a movie in a theater is the best experience I've ever had.
Holy cow. Okay. That surprised me. All right. This whole thing has been like has been surprising here and there.
They
but
made it with real planes.
ever?
Yes, best movie theater experience I have ever
And you don't
had.
normally like, this isn't BJ Bennett. Like you don't normally say things like this.
Yeah, no.
Especially this quickly.
I don't get 3 games into a season and say somebody might be the best running back ever.
Goodness gracious. Okay. Well, I'm going to text my family and see if we can go see this tonight.
You might want to check and see if there's any reserved seats left, because if your theater has like that premier theater that you can go see it at, I encourage you to do that. Like with the better audio, and it's got like the Ultra HD and all that. Like you always have like the theaters that have like a couple of screens that are better than everything else in the theater.
Of course.
Right? Just because they can jack up the ticket prices. But it's worth it to see this.
Okay. All right. Can't wait then. No, that's very good,
like,
good to hear all
I think
around.
as an action movie,
yeah,
it's near the tier, because it's going to be very hard for me to put these, and I don't want to go full BJ.
Right.
It's near like Predator and Rambo and all that.
Okay. All right. I can't wait for that.
It's
then.
that good.
Because like this is the thing. This is what I was going to say about your movie critic kind of persona and what you bring to the table in that, right? Is don't get me wrong. Like you've never steered me wrong on a movie. Like every movie you've recommended, I've gone and watched, and I thought it was amazing. That being said, you're like an expert when it comes to like thriller / investigative movies,
okay,
or / action
soft
movies.
spot in my heart for just
where
80s
it's
action
like,
movies. Yeah,
where it's like, and I know I've heard that this one isn't even 100% pure action movie all the time, but I would still
you get a little romance in there.
Yeah, I would still kind of classify it in there a little bit.
Wouldn't be romantic about Jennifer Connelly?
Of course,
that's just me.
Exactly, that's just kind of a given. That being said, like, so one, I'm very happy to hear you say that because of that, because I know your history in that, right? And two, to hear it was better than the original, which is just incredible because we know how sequels go, and that it's really good just in this day and age. Because let's be real, we talked about this a little last week off the show. When I look at Top Gun the original, to me, I don't want to. It is what it is. To me, it was never a great, amazing, incredible blockbuster type of movie when it just comes to movies. But it was pure 150% 80s movie adrenaline
Might
rush.
have the best movie soundtrack ever. I'm
just like, soundtrack wise, it was great, but it was like pure 80s. Well, if you want to step into the 80s when it comes to humor, action, just everything all around, kind of cheesiness, watch Top Gun.
So here's what I kind of came out like emotionally feeling, and I felt it during the movie too, was what we're not making any more of are action heroes.
Yeah.
And we're really not
making superheroes. We're
making superheroes, but I'm talking like if you're Chris Hemsworth, you're Thor.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you are. And he's made a few other ones. Like there's, is it Extraction that he made for Netflix? It was pretty good.
I thought that was incredible.
It was a pretty good action movie. It was enjoyable. I'd watch it again. But I'm talking like Schwarzenegger, Stallone, and now Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Who is from that same era and has aged a little bit more gracefully than those other two guys, probably because he's not like pumping steroids into his eyeballs. But
yeah,
or like he never had the thing where he like broke off to the side and decided to be a governor for a little while, right? So
he never did that, and he also never like he stayed. I feel like within the grasp of his body type, right? Like as weird as that sounds, he never went and like took a year and a half and was like, I'm gonna be a bodybuilder now.
Yeah,
he was just like,
but also like has done his
shape,
own, but also insists on doing his own stunts in every single movie.
Exactly.
And so like when you see Tom Cruise on a motorcycle going 120 miles an hour, that's Tom Cruise.
Mm-hmm.
No helmet on, hair flip back, aviators on, cheesing with that Hollywood smile. Like it's Tom Cruise.
Or even
you can't like
flying jets.
And listen,
like,
I know how good, and I know how good CGI has gotten. I know how good, but you can still tell when it's CGI.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you try to CGI him onto the motorcycle into the sunset while he's on like the tarmac with a F-18 flying over his head, he's just smiling at it, it's not the same if it's CGI.
Yeah.
Right? But if it's Tom Cruise and he's actually on the motorcycle, it's an amazing scene. And so as I'm sitting there experiencing it, I'm like, this feels like a movie from a different time.
Yeah.
Because you have the action star, you have the cat, like you have the ensemble around him. Like Miles Teller, I thought did a really good job. I was kind of skeptical of him going into that, just as like an action, like fighter pilot kind of guy. I've seen some of his other roles. He was amazing in Whiplash, but never really seen him in an action role like this. Thought he did a really good job. Dude's got a heck of a stash. I think he pulled it off.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Yeah.
But also just how the movie's made, right? They did the same thing that the original Top Gun did. You don't know what the country is that they're going after, because of course the premise is there's this like mission that only Maverick can teach the younger groups how to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to bring him in, and it can only involve fighter jets because they're the only type of plane that can get the mission done. So you have like the cheesy premise,
of
right?
Course. Yeah.
But and you're gonna have to do backflips and you're gonna have to do all kinds of crazy stuff out there. You have the cheesy premise, but it's an unnamed country, so like you don't worry about who the enemy is.
Yeah.
The beauty of the story is in the development and the acting and just the cast and how they do it. And there's some nods to the old one in there, and there's a little bit of romance in there, like I said, but maybe like 10 total minutes of screen time out of the entire movie.
Yeah.
The rest of it's just get after it.
Right.
And then, but what I like, and I feel like so many movies try to avoid this now, is they put stuff in there just because it's cool.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, you want to see something that's awesome? Here's this. And you're like, thank you.
Exactly.
It's summer. It's a blockbuster. Just give me something cool.
Yeah.
And it is cool because they spent like reports are saying they spent like $11,000 an hour giving that money to the U.S. military to borrow these jets.
Yeah. No, that's crazy.
So like they broke the bank to make this thing, and now it's like Tom Cruise's highest grossing blockbuster ever.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw that over the weekend too, and thought that was insane, but amazing at the same time. And I think just speaks to, how not only how popular Top Gun is, but how good the movie could be. Because I'm sure like there are several people who went and saw this movie 2 or 3 times over the weekend. Like
I was just about to say, tell me when you and your family are going to see it, because I might go.
Yeah, no, I got you. Like for sure, because if I'm
invited,
it's like no, of course I'll let you know. We'll figure it out. But no, there's other movies that are coming out nowadays that people just fangirl out over, whatever you want to call it, and see it like 6 times in a week. And for some people, that's Top Gun, man.
But I'm not surprised at that. When's the last time we had an action movie come out that everyone's just like, yo?
I think the one that keeps coming back to me, that the only kind of rebuttal, the only one that I'm like, this is the man, like it has to be John Wick, right? I feel like John Wick's fair. A little bit like it's the only.
But I think John Wick kind of falls into that kung fu genre a little bit.
I don't know. I only saw the first one. I'm not gonna lie. So like I don't know where the other ones go, but it's.
Yeah, I think that's a good one, and I think it kind of came out of left field, like no one was expecting it, and like nobody
Yeah.
kind of knew what to base it off of. I think what's making Top Gun so good is the expectations, and then the fact that it just
Yeah.
like blew past them or
Right.
flew past them.
Yep. Because like there's
But
much
John
more
Wick's
hype.
a good one.
Yeah, there's much more hype for John Wick 2 and 3 than the first one
Yeah, and then
ever
like on
was.
top of those, like because they're sequels, they're not quite as good as the first.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? And it's just like, okay, how many times can I see like a plane do crazy stuff? It's like apparently you could do that for an hour.
Yeah. Now that I do especially like to hear though that like as you said, there needs to be some stuff that's just left to be cool and just you thrown in there because it's awesome to see and awesome to watch. Because believe me, I am all for like when it takes like depth and story building and whatever in as many scenes as possible.
Yeah.
Like try to get that emotional pull out of me. I'm there for that. But you need to have a balancing act to that too. And I feel like so many movies or even TV series now is like every single scene is we have to be tugging at your heartstrings.
You know what
like,
this kind of feels similar to, and it might kind of do a disservice of like the message I'm trying to push across, but it's like the same kind of feeling. Remember the first time you saw Transformers? Not like the 8 that came after it, but like the first time.
Transformers.
Yeah, like the first time you saw that.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. The first live action Transformers,
Yeah.
like Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah,
And like, yeah,
like
that was great.
The
yeah.
first time you saw that, and like you saw like a truck turn into a robot mech kind of deal,
Yeah,
whatever they're called.
it was cool.
Like
yeah.
it was that kind of feeling to where like how enjoyable
right.
it was, but it's better. Like it's clearly better than Transformers. I'm just trying to think of something that describes it, but there's not really a message in the movie either, which I think kind of helps with the watchability of it.
Sometimes that's
like
perfectly
if anything,
fine.
the message is like accepting or like bucking against time.
Yeah.
I guess could be the one thing is like people are saying, hey, you're done. It's time for you to move on. And it's like, well, you're like, this is what I'm meant to do kind of a deal. But it honestly, it felt more action hero-y to me than it did like as an actual message.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, see, like it's time to accept gracefully moving on. It's like, no, it's like, I'm the only person on earth that can do this.
So I'm going to do
it. So I'm Maverick.
Yeah.
All right.
Period.
So it's just, I highly encourage people. Top Gun Maverick has sent me $0. In fact, I'm in the hole because I went and saw it.
Right.
But I highly encourage people to go see it. And I will say, I think PG-13 rating, take the family.
Even better.
There's one F-bomb in there, but you know what? You got to add a little salt in there every now and then.
Is it in a, I don't want to get any like violations.
I'll give you the exact quote. It was a, what the bleep was that?
Okay.
Yeah.
But is it like, because there's some PG-13 movies that like they don't use it in the right spot in the movie.
No, it's not like a bleep you. It's like a plane does something wild and they're like, what the bleep was that?
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So they're basically saying what everyone in the movie theater was saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Those are cool ones. Yeah. Those are acceptable ones.
All right. So again, movie review, Top Gun Maverick, 4 stars. And like the only critic reviews I respect, because this is the ones I grew up reading, and he was usually very harsh, is Roger Ebert. Or Roger Ebert is the best. Is how you actually pronounce it.
Yeah.
But he was Chicago Tribune, the movie critic to me. Right? If he says it's a great movie, it's a great movie. Like I think he gave like The Return of the King like 3.5 stars. Like it takes a lot to be perfect in his mind, right?
Yeah.
He passed away a few years ago, but still like the crew that he has running his reviews is really good.
Yeah.
4 stars.
Okay. All right. Impressive.
So
better than The Return of the King. Wow.
For like, it doesn't try to be anything that it's not.
Yeah.
And you get like maybe Tom Cruise's best performance.
That's crazy.
I'm just saying. I'm putting it out there.
That's wild.
I'm putting it out there. I'm not usually a hot take person. I'm putting it out there.
Okay.
Let's take a break. Speaking of hot takes, there's a lot of them on Twitter over the weekend. Our good friend Josh Pate from the Late Kick podcast with Josh Pate, he put out a question on Twitter. Who are the top 5 programs in college football since 2000? A lot of people just threw an answer out there, not really considering.
Yeah.
We're going to consider when we come back. Also, a little bit later in the show, have some quotes to get you as SEC meetings have officially begun in Destin. So we'll get you some because, listen, we were waiting to see what happens when Jimbo Fisher and Nick Saban ran across each other. Apparently, there were no fisticuffs.
That's kind of
But
disappointing.
Lane Kiffin has like taken over and is just dropping bombs everywhere. So we'll give you those a little bit later as well. When we come back, we're going to try to figure out who are the top 5 college football programs since 2000. I think a couple of the answers might surprise you, but if you do your homework, I think it's pretty clear. This is Second Down on ESPN Radio. We're presented to you by the Uniform Source. We'll be right back after this. Second Down on ESPN Radio is presented to you by the Uniform Source. Christian Gokel alongside PJ Zuko, and PJ Zuko has that look on his face.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just got this text. Hell yeah. What time?
Is that from your brother?
Yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah. Mario Zuko, Navy vet.
Yep. I'm probably go seeing it with my dad as well if he's off. Also, 22 years in the
Even
Navy,
if so, do you know what their jobs were?
My dad was, oh man, my dad.
Sure, Mario can tell you here in a second.
Yeah, no, for sure. He was working down. I'm like, it's skipping my name, but anyway, for 17 of those years, he was in the Naval Reserves as a CB.
Okay.
So working on construction and whatnot. Went to Iraq, built a bunch of the huts and everything that the Marines were staying in. Mario was IT, communications.
Cool.
So, believe my dad was an engineer, something like that. But at the same time, I don't know why it's in my mind. But
we love the Zukos.
he was down there in the depths of the ship working on things. So I don't know what the.
Oh, we love the Zukos.
Thank you. We love the Gokels, man.
Oh, quit it.
That's why you're coming to see Top Gun tonight. Let's go.
Yeah, hell yeah, let's do it.
Let's do
that
it.
being said, Josh Pate put out on Twitter a question over the weekend, and we're going to answer it here because I've done some research. What are the top 5 programs in college football since 2000? So I think we have to kind of start reevaluating how we look at who the blue bloods of college football are, because I think that is a phrase that has to change, and it has to be fluid as time marches on, right? As much as Tom Cruise wants to fight it, time's going to keep marching on. And so when you think of the blue bloods of college football, you think of the Michigans, the Notre Dames, right? All those names where you can say, oh, radio calls back like this in the day, right? And so those are the blue bloods of college football. But I really think we have to reevaluate how we're looking at that. And so I think it was a really cool question from Josh Pate. So I've gone through and I've done some research, and I did 3 categories because I care about on the field. I care about your production on the field in terms of what you are as a college football program. I could give a bleep about recruiting rankings. I could care less about how many first-round picks you put into the NFL because it's so subjective, because it's how the NFL grades your players, and a lot of those miss. And you have a lot of guys who are 5th, 6th, 7th undrafted that turn out to be really good players. So I'm not factoring in draft picks. I have 3 categories: national championships, conference championships, and Heisman Trophy winners. So I think when you're talking about the best programs in college football, the best, they're going to win national championships, they're going to win conference championships, and they're going to win Heisman trophies. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm going to start with the teams that I think have an outside shot, and there's 2. Boise State.
Yeah.
I know a lot of Georgia fans, whenever you say Boise State, they just get sick to their stomach. They start thinking about Power Ranger uniforms. And they start thinking about getting smoked in Atlanta.
That's the do you think about the loss first or the uniforms in the loss?
Both. Probably loss first. I think about Kellen Moore just absolutely shredding Georgia.
Yeah.
Nothing but Texas routes. And Georgia's linebackers had no idea what to do about them. That being said, Boise State since 2000 has the 2nd best winning percentage. And the 2nd most. Oh, no, take that back. They have the most wins.
Wow.
Since 2000, and the 2nd most, or the 2nd best winning percentage by 1%. They have an 82% winning percentage.
Yeah. Insanity.
They've gone undefeated twice, 2006 and 2009. And back then, we weren't as open-minded as we are now. There was no college football playoff system, so all they could do was go to a BCS bowl,
right,
and beat Oklahoma, and then I think they beat Arizona.
I think something like that. They also did they beat TCU as well? There was that one year that was really frustrating.
It was TCU
because it was TCU and Boise State, and they were both vying for
TCU.
A shot a bit against the big guys, and they put them against each other.
I think they went to a Fiesta. I think they went to a Fiesta Bowl under Brian Harsin and beat Arizona. But that being said, Boise State twice undefeated in the 2000s, 2006 and 2009. They won 13 conference championships since 2000, and they've been to 3 BCS bowls. So I put them in there as someone you at least need to consider, but I don't have them inside the top 5. Also, App State.
Yeah.
A lot of people saying, come on, man. Sunbelt is a top 5 program. Well, prior to joining the FBS, App State ripped off 3 consecutive national championships at the FCS level, 2005, 2006, and 2007. Since 2000, including their time in the Sun Belt, they have won 11 conference championships. And since they got to the FBS level, they have won 77% of their games, which is better than teams like USC, Texas, Virginia Tech, Oregon, Wisconsin. So, like, they're really good.
Yeah.
So we'll put App State in there as a contender. Now, before I get to the top 5, here are some teams that just missed the cut that I think have arguments. Florida.
Yeah.
2 national championships, 2006, 2008. 3 conference championships, 2000, 2006, 2008, and 1 Heisman Trophy winner, 1 Tim Tebow.
Yeah.
Reason I do not have them inside of the top 5, inconsistent.
Yeah.
They kind of peaked 2007, 2008, and since then, it has been a decade of mediocrity for the most part from the Florida Gators. I know you had the Kyle Trask year where they kind of sparked up there for a second during the COVID year.
Yeah.
But outside of that, it's been pretty mediocre. They actually, out of all the teams I'm going to talk about here today, have the worst winning percentage. They've won 69% of their games since 2000.
That makes sense. Well, like you said, they were so that a lot of people think about it because that they were so dominant in that 2005, 2010 stretch and so involved. And then I think, like you said, 1 out of the last 9 years have they been not media relevant, but actually on the field, competitive wise, relevant, like pushing the label relevant. And that was Kyle Trask, Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, the SEC East, like Georgia's kind of put a stranglehold on it in the past 5 years, but there's a stretch from 2010 on where it was South Carolina and Missouri.
Yeah. Yeah. Duking it out.
Yeah. So
it's crazy.
Florida's just on the outside looking in. Southern Cal, I know a lot of people thought immediately when you think about since 2000, USC.
Yeah, of course.
Not the case. They've won 70% of their games since 2000, and they say they've won 2 national championships.
Right.
2003, 2004. But the NCAA, along with a bunch of other organizations, stripped the 2004 title. Also, they've won 8 conference championships, but 2 of those have been vacated and 3 of them were shared.
Yeah.
So I have them just on the outside looking in. Georgia. I think this will surprise a lot of people because out of all the teams I just mentioned, I think Georgia has the best case to be inside of the top 5 because of the consistency.
Mm-hmm.
They got the national championship this year.
Right.
They don't have a Heisman winner. They've won 3 conference championships, same amount as Florida since 2000. But their winning percentage is 7% better than Florida's and 6% better than USC's. Georgia has a 76% winning percentage since 2000.
Yeah.
It's been consistent. We were talking about it. There's been a couple of years where they were down, but outside of that, it's 9, 10, 11 wins a year.
Immediately rebound. Yeah. And as frustrating as that is as a fan, like all those years of being 11-2 or 10-3 or whatever, that proves how incredibly built your product is and your system, your program is. But
I think a big factor in that since 2000, 2 head coaches.
Yeah. Incredibly.
And I think you'll notice that as a trend as we go through the top 5. Yeah. So Georgia I have on the outside looking in. So top 5, 5-1. You ready?
Go. I can't wait. Yeah.
Number 5, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
82%. They have the 1 national championship in 2000. But I think the fact that they are consistently in the postseason, so since 2014, we've added the playoff. They're consistently in the postseason. They also have 14 conference championships since 2000, and they're tied for first since 2000 with 4 Heisman Trophy winners.
Yeah, crazy.
And they've had a plethora of other dudes sitting in New York. Like Adrian Peterson did not win a Heisman Trophy.
Yeah, that's insanity.
Tennessee head coach Josh Heupel, who led them to that 2000 national championship, did not win the Heisman Trophy. So Oklahoma's number 5. Number 4, kind of with the new bloods, Clemson. They kind of showed up around 2009, 2010. Taj Boyd and them boys getting it going. And then a guy named Dabo Sweeney showed up. They have 2 national championships, 2016 and 2018, and 7 conference championships. Dominated the ACC. How many Heisman Trophy winners? Still a fat 0 for Clemson.
Yeah.
All those amazing players have come through there still have not won a Heisman Trophy, but 2 national championships and a 74% winning percentage, I think puts them inside the top 4 there. Number 3 actually has the highest winning percentage since 2000. The Ohio State. 2 national championships, and the reason they're inside the top 3 for me over the other 2 national championship teams is how they're spread out. You won one in 2002,
Right.
won one in 2014, and you've been back to the national championship as well. You have 11 conference championships, 11 Big Ten championships since 2000,
Such a pain to hear. Yeah.
and 1 Heisman Trophy winner named
I don't know. I don't care.
Troy Smith.
No, I'm just kidding.
Come on,
Troy
you remember
Smith.
the
Yeah,
man
no.
Troy Smith?
No, absolutely.
But again, Ohio State, 2 head coaches since 2000.
Love to hate him.
Or no, 3, excuse me. Jim Tressel, Urban Meyer,
Right.
and then Ryan Day. But Ryan Day hasn't won that natty yet.
Yeah, no, of course. He's been there,
Yep.
but hasn't gotten over the hill.
All right. Do you have any guess as to who I'm putting number 2? Again, this is all opinion.
Just yeah, because it's definitely not number 1. Is it someone that we've talked about
Me and you have talked about them today.
in the commercial break?
Yes.
Believe possibly LSU.
It is LSU.
Yeah.
And a lot of people out there are like, how is LSU the second best program in college football since 2000? Like, we hardly even talk about it. I'm like, yeah, they had the one pop-up year in 2019 where Joe Burrow showed up and you had those 2 NFL receivers on the outside and the defense that was just good enough to keep everybody from outscoring that offense. But, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It's not fair to LSU. Number 1, they have been in the same division as Alabama that entire time as Nick Saban has shown up. And they have won their conference 5 times since 2000. They have a 75% winning percentage.
Yeah. That's
3
wild.
national championships.
Yeah.
I think people forget about the 2003 national championship for some reason.
Yeah.
You remember 2007?
Nick Saban's first one.
Yeah, you remember 2007 with Les Miles. Obviously, everybody remembers 2019 with Joe Burrow and Ed Orgeron.
Of course.
But you forget about 2003 with Nick Saban.
Mm-hmm.
LSU's won 3 national championships since 2000 and won 75% of their games in the hardest division in college football.
Yeah. And was just since you've brought it up with other teams, have been to another national championship where they lost to the team that they beat earlier that year in the game of the century. One of the 19 game of the century.
Of course,
But-
number 1,
Yeah, but
the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Yep.
6 national championships, 8 SEC championships, and 4 Heisman Trophy winners since 2000.
wow.
All of them under Nick Saban, so technically since 2007.
And all of them again, it's kind of like Ohio State with the spread out national championships, right? Alabama's been very dominant in that, right? But you talk about their Heisman Trophy winners as well, all at a lot of different positions. I mean, this first Devontae Smith, first wide receiver Heisman Trophy winner we've seen in forever.
2 running backs, a wide receiver, and a quarterback.
Yeah. Crazy.
So
It's
any
insanely impressive.
disputes, any teams that you think should be in there that were left out?
I think not really.
Like, I
not
hear
not in the
arguments
top
about
5.
like knocking Oklahoma or Clemson out for a USC or maybe a Florida, but I just think Florida's.
No, I mean, I wouldn't even really that because I think both of those, I think if you're talking about just 2000 to 2010, then sure, you put those 2 teams in there, those 2 programs in there. But you take the last 20, 22 years, you got to take into account that they've completely fallen off. They just have. And I know that's tough for a lot of fans of college football and fans of those teams to hear, but they have. And even you still see the remnant today of like USC gets a new quarterback, gets a new coach. Now everyone thinks they're going to be amazing to get again like that. I don't believe that either. So no, I wouldn't even really hear an argument for those 2 teams. If someone wanted to argue about Oklahoma and Clemson, I think the 2 teams that you would have an argument for in that stretch are Georgia. And although they don't have a national championship, and I'm not sure how many conference titles they have, I will throw Oregon on the outside looking in list. They do have that Heisman Trophy winner in Marcus Mariota. They're 9 times out of 10 in the conversation. I believe they're in the top 10 there of winning percentage over the last 22 years since 2000. So they're kind of always there in the conversation. They haven't gotten the natty though, so that's probably the most important thing. I would put them on the outside looking in. But as for the
Outside
top
looking in.
5, I don't have a lot of arguments with you. No.
So there you go. There's our top 5. If you want to write our top or your top 5 in, tweet us at ESPN Coastal. We got to take a quick break. We'll come back with more right here on Second Down. PJ, the road to Omaha heads through Statesboro.
How about that?
Georgia Southern hosting a regional. Baseball team fell in the Sun Belt Championship game to Louisiana, but still come in as the 16th seed. They're going to host UNC Greensboro, Texas Tech, and Notre Dame in Statesboro. As for some other schools from the state, Georgia Tech, whew, that's a tough draw as they are in the number 1 seed group with Tennessee.
Oof.
Who's got bullpen guys out there throwing 105 miles an hour. That just doesn't seem humanly possible. And then a tough draw for Georgia as well, as they will head up to take on a red hot North Carolina as well as Hofstra and VCU. I believe every other team in Georgia's region region is a conference champion.
Goodness, yeah, like you said,
So,
tough draw there, but
yeah, tough draw for the Dogs there. But how cool is that for Old Statesboro?
very cool. Especially you got those big schools, obviously, big programs coming in as well, and having the eye of college baseball on Statesboro for a little bit. That's awesome.
Those boys from South Bend coming on to Statesboro.
Yeah, a bit of a culture shock, probably.
A little bit, and a little bit of a humidity shock too. I would have to imagine.
Absolutely, but get that Southern hospitality, get some deep fried food in them, and we'll see how slow they are out on the base paths, and see if the team they're playing can get an advantage on that, or if Georgia Southern can get an advantage on all these teams because of that Southern cooking they might be eating. We'll see.
There you go. And
Either
so,
way,
speaking
awesome
of Georgia Southern, though, Georgia Southern Athletic Director Jared Binko will join 3 and Out coming up at 3:20 to break down what it means to be hosting that regional, as things under Jared Binko really trending in the right direction. You got Coach Helton taking over the football program, looking at some new facilities coming in the future for them, and now you're hosting a regional in Statesboro. Things looking really cool right now if you're a Georgia Southern Eagle. Let's take one more quick break. We'll come back. We'll get you ready for 3 and Out next, right here on ESPN Radio. Second Down on ESPN Radio is presented to you by The Uniform Source. Got a scheduling update for you as well. Jared Binko still scheduled to join 3 and Out coming up at 3:20, but we'll hear from the head man himself, Rodney Hennon from Georgia Southern Baseball. Will join the show at 5 o'clock. So make sure you tune in there as the Eagles are hosting a regional in Statesboro that will feature Notre Dame, Texas Tech, and UNC Greensboro. A lot of really good baseball happening just within a couple hours drive of wherever you are listening to this. So if you can get up there and check it out, I encourage you to do so. I believe a ticket gets you into every game.
There you go.
So just
Why not?
Make a weekend of it.
Yeah, heck yeah. That's awesome.
That being said, PJ, I did promise people some of the quotes coming out of the SEC meetings.
Get your popcorn.
Yeah, so typically how this works is you get like the press gets some time with the coaches, but then the coaches kind of have a roundtable with the ADs and they discuss just what the future of the conference is going to look like. Obviously on the table right now is NIL is a huge issue, but they can't really do anything about that. So on the table right now are stuff that they can control, i.e. what a division is going to look like coming in the future. Nick Saban has voiced his opinion and said that he likes an extra game. He would love a 9-game schedule, but it sounds like pods have kind of been thrown to the wayside in terms of an idea. And I think a lot of it goes back to what we've talked about and what 3 and Outs talked about is you can't lose those rivalry games.
Yeah.
Kind of what makes the SEC the SEC. So as
True.
nice as it would be every couple of years to play against every team inside the SEC, I think more Georgia fans care about playing Tennessee every year than they do about playing Texas A&M. So that being said, it sounds like they're moving towards a 9-game schedule in the future, but keeping those historic rivalries, and you'll just have to add Oklahoma and Texas into that. But one quote I want people to kind of chew on, because we're going to come back and talk about this a lot tomorrow, is from Billy Napier, new Florida head coach. It says, if there's no players in these stadiums, no one is showing up to watch. It all leads back to the money. TV industry holds the key to the castle, so to speak. Reported by Ross Dellinger from Sports Illustrated. Billy Napier out here giving his best recruiting pitch. I haven't heard a lot of I've heard a lot of coaches advocating, yeah, and I love that. I love players to go out there and make some money. Haven't heard a lot of coaches advocating for giving players a portion of that TV revenue.
Yep.
So
Sure.
that an interesting strike there from Billy Napier. That being said, 3 and Out coming up next. If you miss any portion of our show, you can check it out on ESPNCoastal.com or wherever you get your podcast. Jared Binko, Georgia Southern Athletic Director, set to join the program coming up at 3:20. And then Rodney Hennon, Georgia Southern head baseball coach, set to join at 5 o'clock. All that coming up next right here on ESPN Radio. We will catch up with everyone tomorrow.